Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Brickey here. Today's adventure, looking back at 20 years of the Haunted Mansion Holiday Gingerbread Houses. To celebrate the 20th anniversary, Disneyland created a gingerbread house that pays tribute to all 20 houses that came before. Let's explore them. For the past 20 years, each fall at Disneyland, not only do two holidays collide, but two attractions collide. When the Haunted Mansion goes down at the end of every summer, but returns at the strike of fall as the Haunted Mansion Holiday, where Jack Skellington and all of his pals from Halloween Town show up in New Orleans Square at the Haunted Mansion to celebrate Halloween and the Christmas holiday season. But there's a ritual that exists inside of this Disneyland fall ritual, and that's the ever-evolving evolution of the massive gingerbread house placed on top of the banquet table inside of the world-famous ballroom. And even though we know each season Jack and his friends are coming to town, we never quite know what the shape of the gingerbread house will be. What part of the Nightmare Before Christmas story or the Haunted Mansion legend will it decide to depict is one of the mysteries that every citizen of Disneyland is ready to discover the moment you say goodbye to Madame Leota and start to smell that gingerbread in the air. Disneyland has a team of cast members that work for months to make the impossible happen, which is to outdo the gingerbread house they made the year before. 2001's ambitious beginning celebrated both the Haunted Mansion and Nightmare, a theme that would repeat in 2002 when a pile of gifts would stack together in the shape of the Haunted Mansion, using the symbolism of Nightmare Before Christmas to make the iconic structure that is the Haunted Mansion. 2003 may be the most unique gingerbread house yet, taking the shape of Oogie Boogie, the only cake in 20 years to just take the shape of one character. 2004 would begin the trend of adding in many characters from Nightmare, but focusing in on the iconic shape of the Haunted Mansion. 2004 is the earliest appearance of today's template. 2005 would go back to the idea of trying to make a cake that looked like one of the characters, but fell short by not finding an iconic character and the iconic theming that would make all the other gingerbreads feel uniquely Disney. Fans must have agreed because this is the hardest one to find a photo of. In 2006, we saw our first gingerbread house that would primarily celebrate iconography from the Haunted Mansion, using Nightmare symbolism as a secondary story device. 2007 must have got the creative juices flowing, as this gingerbread house would take the shape of a Jack-in-the-Box. It loses points on making Jack look like a gesture and making him look a little bit too ICP for me. 2008 and 2009 would add storytelling interaction to the gingerbread houses, with 2008's Mummy going up and down inside of a coffin and the carousel in 2009 lighting up. The work of the previous 2 years must have been too much for the cast members because we saw 2010 go back to a much simpler cake form without compromising the story. The ambitious 10-year anniversary gingerbread house would focus primarily on the Haunted Mansion's iconic exterior, but would create design challenges as the cast members would decide to cut it in half and illuminate it from within. If 2011 was more about the Haunted Mansion, 2012 was definitely more about Nightmare Before Christmas, but more specifically, the Tim Burton bending style of artwork, where everything tapers and skews to unworldly proportions. The stairway to the top of the house is not only our largest gingerbread house in scale, but it is the one that symbolizes Tim Burton's unique art style more than any other, and would go on to set an unmanageable precedent of what cast members would try to do year in year out, with a table full of decorations, adding in the train that goes around the bottom of this cake. This one was absolutely one of the best of the bunch, with so much engineering on the inside to make something this tall stand, but also be able to run power through the top so that Zero could do laps around the house at the top of the Tim Burton styled skewing mountain, covered in frosting and pumpkins, with the stairs each being meticulously uneven. This one, 2012, was absolutely one for the theming storybooks. A magnificent cake, one of the all-time best, that truly honored the Tim Burton aesthetic. Simply put, 2013 is just smart design. Creating an advent calendar is just a no-brainer, but yet it took 13 years for them to come up with this idea. Creating once again a gingerbread house that is a massive scale, which is becoming an annual theme of making the cakes larger and larger, filling up the entire space of the banquet table inside of the ballroom. Once again, we see lights added to the exterior of the gingerbread house, but it's the interactive feature of 2013 that makes makes it one of the greatest yet. Because even though its scale is impressive, what's more impressive to me is the interactive nature, where each week one of these doors would get flipped over and appear Jack Skellington's head. It's one thing to come up with a design that looks cool, it's another thing to come up with a design that looks amazing and is also serving a purpose or function, making 2013 my personal favorite. For 14, we would see another famous shape of the Haunted Mansion, which is now becoming pretty normal, but inside this time we would find a skeleton gingerbread man. But when you look at the links that the cast members go to create these cakes off stage, to build them, to transport them, and then to slowly put them together inside of the ballroom, using cranes and pulleys to lift them on place, getting the gingerbread house in place is just one part of it. Then you have to build the exterior all around it, decorate the top of the banquet table, and after all of these chefs / Imagineers / cast members are done, they have to install the electronics for whatever activity is made possible by this particular gingerbread, and then also bring back in all of the traditional Haunted Mansion characters that live around this cake for 13 weeks. 2014, very, very ambitious and amazing gingerbread house. 2015 would take the idea of a house of cards and play with them in the shape of the Haunted Mansion, but the theming of the darkness of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. And trust me, friend, it is no easy task to put this bend that you see in the House of Cards, to make something look like that it could fall over in a moment's notice, but actually make it structurally sound is no easy design task. In 2015, you can see that a lot of extra effort went into the place settings all around the gingerbread castle on the banquet table, and if you look closely, you can find a hidden Mickey. The idea and the theming of the cake is just part of what makes these so special. It's all of the supportive items around it, the characters on the table, the way that the place settings come together. Each theme supports the theme next to it, which overall creates a great story. It's no wonder that citizens of Disneyland rush out to the Disneyland Resort each and every fall to see the Haunted Mansion holiday overlay, as an excitement to see what new treats are inside for each of us to discover for the very first time. Easily one of my favorite fall traditions. 2016 had a cool return to simplicity, and even though it's smaller in scale, it remains one of the best designed. 2017 scale would return for this very whimsical version of the gingerbread house, where we see a house with the Tim Burton skewing aesthetic, but Oogie Boogie coming up from behind to maybe take a bite out of this delicious gingerbread house. Using lots of insects in the same way that we would use ornaments on a tree, 2017 sets up something different that we haven't seen, which is a massive shape of the Haunted Mansion, but with lots of little flourishes that take us over to Nightmare Before Christmas. And even though it is a beautiful gingerbread house, it's not one of my favorites just because it lacks some of the theming and clever design that we'd seen in just the past couple of years. Extra points for the explosion of gummy worms coming out of the upper right. I'm not going to kick it out of bed, but it's just not my favorite. 2018 has a massive scale and movement. Probably the largest moving cake that we've seen designed by Disney, with the crunchy mouth inserted inside the frame of the Haunted Mansion actually being able to make a munchy monster motion, and a giant spider ascending from the ceiling to get on top of the Haunted Mansion's roof, with some Christmas lights added just for good fun. Probably the most uniquely slender gingerbread house that we've seen. 2019 would celebrate 50 years of the Haunted Mansion, and therefore its theme would be almost primarily about the Haunted Mansion. Not a lot of nightmare in this one, but understandably so, as citizens of Disneyland, we're proudly celebrating 50 years of the Haunted Mansion. Which brings us to our 20th anniversary cake, which I'm just going to say is not that good. I love the concept and the idea of putting something from all 20 cakes together, but it just lacks a cohesive vision and lacks a clever way to bring these items together, so it does indeed just look like 20 things piled together. But that being said, I am happier than ever to see it, because we had no Haunted Mansion last year, making 2020 the scariest one of them all. Friends, I hope you enjoyed looking back at all 20 Haunted Mansion gingerbread houses as citizens of Disneyland celebrate 20 years of the Haunted Mansion holiday. Friends, if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and consider subscribing to the channel. I want to thank all my friends over at Club 1313 for making today's good news possible. And friend, I want to thank you for showing up and letting me share the good news with you. Friends, until the next time I see you in your doom buggy, smelling that gingerbread aroma in the air, I'll see you back here tomorrow with more Disneyland news.